The best way to get a job is to pretend you're not looking for a job. Hey, this is the Sword and the Pen Reflections. It is my casual alternative to the formal channel, The Sword and the Pen, link up there. So I was asked a couple of videos ago how I got my job as a freelance editor, and I realized that my story is actually really applicable to anybody pursuing any job. And so I thought, I'll just make its own little separate video. Okay, so here's what I did. I was in my last year at school. I was pursuing English literature, and I thought, it's going to be really tough going out there and finding, a job because I don't know anybody in the publishing industry, which is what I wanted to get into. I didn't know specifically what type of publishing. I just knew I wanted to be editing because I wanted to spend all my free time doing writing. But what I did was I contacted several publishing houses in my area, including the traditional publishing houses, but also a magazine and a newspaper. And I called them up and I said, hey, I'm a student at such and such university. And, I'm not really sure what position I want in a publishing house, but I'm getting my degree in English literature. And I just know that I want to work in publishing in some area. Would it be cool if I came down someday to interview some of your employees to just find out about what they do and what their job entails, etc.? And most of these places were very receptive. And yeah, I got to go and visit some of them. And I did exactly what I said I did. I showed up with a notepad with questions about each of their positions. What's your day-to-day like? Who do you work with? Like, is this a team effort, or, are you pretty much solo? I thought of as many questions as I possibly could in advance to make this a very professional, very well organized sort of interaction. And I showed up looking, my best in my professional clothes, and I stood, sat upright and made eye contact the whole time, just as personable. And, this would be a very responsible person, coming to visit you kind of thing. And what happened is at these publishing houses that I did not present myself as wanting to, get a job there, I was offered jobs. And I did make sure that when I said I would like to talk to people in publishing, I said at every level. So from the bottom all the way up to the top. And they accommodated me. And I just managed to impress people with how professionally I conducted myself and how interested I seemed in this industry, that they thought, this is somebody who I think would make a great employee. So that is kind of, my suggestion to you is, if you are looking for work, especially if it's, something like where, it's a big, wide industry and there are several things that you could do, especially if you're in school, or maybe you're going to school, I'm gonna go to school to get this degree. What you can do is you can call these businesses up and say, hey, I'm about to go to school and I'm not sure I'm in the right program because I want to work for a company like yours. Could I come and interview some of your people? And the reason why this works is because nowadays, if you approach a business and say, I would like to get a job working for you, the first thing they're going to say is, well, go home, go online and submit your resume through there. And that's so impersonal. They'll never remember who you were. They won't remember that you're the person who showed up at the office asking, do you have any jobs available? They won't remember that you're the person who called them up and asked them the same question. And I found out recently that more than half of these jobs on these websites like, LinkedIn and ZipRecruiter and jobbing.com, they're not even actually available. They're like a business that's ready to, we have an open position and we want to hire, but we already have somebody internally who we want to move to that position. However, legally, we have to advertise it first. So you might spend hours on your resume and tailoring a good cover letter to send it to them, and they have no intention of hiring anybody who applies for it other than the person who's internally, they've told the same thing. Just make sure you send in a cover letter and a resume and we'll hire you for this position. This, however, that which is just really frustrating. It's very frustrating to have that be what you're up against, that more than half of the jobs you're applying to are probably not actually available. And I'm one of those people who custom tailors my cover letter and my resume for each individual job I'm applying to. So you're probably not going to get that job and put a ton of effort into it. But this method gets you a shoe-in, because it allows you to interact directly and in a very casual sort of way with the person who knows what positions are available. And you're showing yourself to be interested in several different things. Like, hey, I just like this industry and I want to put the work in. You're showing that you want to develop into somebody who would be a good employee. Like I even said to every single person that I interviewed, I said, I want your job someday. What do I need to do to make myself look like the ideal candidate for this? And they would tell me, well, you need this education and you need to get this kind of experience and blah, 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 or whatever. But yeah, so when you go and do that and you're creating this personal connection with them, you're also, you want to make sure that you're also doing this with all of your other tools ready to go for that business. So when I went to each one of these publishing houses, I had a resume and cover letter already ready to go. I didn't bring it with me because I didn't want to appear to be one of those people who like, oh, and just in case, here's my resume. It would have been too obvious at that point. But I had people who sat me down at the end of the day, managers and supervisors and CEOs going, you know what? We might have a position here for you. Do you have a resume? And I'll say, I didn't bring one with me, but I have one at home. I can have it to you by, later this afternoon. And that's how it happened. So that is my secret to how you might do well to get yourself a job. It does seem a little sneaky, but quite honestly, if you're really genuinely looking for work, I don't know how else you could do it. I have several friends who have approached me asking me to help them with their resume, and half the time I end up telling them you should do this instead because I know that you're going to spend forever applying for a job and it might not actually even be available. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got to say on this one. Anyway, if this video was helpful for you, please like, subscribe, maybe hit the bell for notifications. Actually, if this is not your usual type of channel, you don't need to do any of that. But if you did find it helpful, maybe check out my Patreon or Ko-fi, especially Ko-fi. You can leave a tip if you want. I don't know. But anyway, happy job hunting and be good to yourself.